Welcome back. Well, if you think back to your history classes growing up, you'll probably remember learning all about the presidents, wars, social issues of the past. I was telling the crew, it's one of those classes I wish I would have paid more attention to growing up. But that's why we have our next guest. Because what about the lesser known people, though, who still had a major impact? That's where it gets interesting. A new book puts a spotlight on 12 unsung heroes who changed the course of our American history. It's called The Small and the Mighty. And we're chatting with the author. Audience, give it up for Sharon McMahon. Hi, Sharon.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I love this. You know, we don't often do stuff like this, but I really do mean it. I wish I would have paid attention more in history, but you know, you're a kid. You're like, oh, I don't need this. So let me start with a really general question. What are some of the most, because you're like America's teacher now, what are some of the most common questions you get about how government works, how civics works?
You know, questions that I'm getting right now are really related to the election. They're about, like what will happen if the candidate dies before the election happens? What will happen if everybody passes away in a nuclear war? Who's the president then? I'm also getting a lot of questions this morning about Puerto Rico, which is like a timely topic because of other things that have been happening in the news. People are surprised that if you live in Puerto Rico, you cannot vote for president, even though you are a U.S. citizen. So a lot of it is just very timely in terms of what's happening in the news cycle.
And you know what? I was thinking about this. For a lot of us, it was so long ago. I mean, I bet for a good chunk of people, we don't even know, even though Conjunction Junction and Schoolhouse Rock taught us, really how a bill passes. I mean, like truly, am I right, Sharon?
You're right. And also Schoolhouse Rock is wonderful, but it oversimplifies it. It makes it seem like somebody just types at a typewriter a couple of sentences and walks it on down the hall. When in reality, do you know who writes bills? It's lawyers. It's lawyers that write bills. It is not your actual congressperson, by and large, who is typing up the bills. It is lawyers that work for Congress that do it. They left that out in Schoolhouse Rock.
Sharon, let me ask you, I don't have children. I haven't been in school in a while. Are social studies, is it still a thing? I mean, do they still do it? Like, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Do they even teach it like they used to?
Yeah, it's for sure still a topic that's in, K through 12 of school. And it's certainly a topic that's taught in Minnesota schools. But nevertheless, I think we're now seeing some of the results of what happens when we have de-emphasized social studies education in the United States over the last 30 or 40 years in favor of other things. So we are still teaching it, but I would argue we need to do even more to make sure that our students are graduating well educated.
Probably for some people watching our show after 10 years, you might be a surprising guest, but you're actually not, because one of the reasons I think people like our show is we don't do politics. Like, I love politics, but we don't do it because people need an escape. And another reason I don't do it, I'll never do it on the show, is because, no one can seem to have civil conversations. I can't even have one with my father-in-law. He calls me Meathead, and I call him Archie. But what are some great tips for all of us? This is why I wanted to talk to you. What are some great tips for all of us, Sharon, to have great civil conversations about government?
It is
not
challenging.
Even politics, right. Not even necessarily politics, but just about government.
It's everybody's emotions are at a very heightened state right now, so it's really not very surprising that it's difficult. But let me give you like two things to think about. The first one is people tend to listen when they feel listened to. If you spend time listening to somebody else's viewpoint on something, honestly and carefully and genuinely, they are far more likely to then listen to your thoughts that are shared in good faith, right? That are not meant to be gotchas, that are not meant to be insulting. So the first thing is listen before seeking to be understood. And the second thing is know when to shut your mouth, Jason. Know when to shut your mouth.
No.
Not you specifically. All of you, all of us need to learn when to be quiet. And here's a phrase you can use. Yes.
Yeah.
We all do. Pumpkin pie Rice Krispie treats. Maybe that's not the time to bring up somebody else's tax plan. Here's a phrase you can use that is super helpful when somebody at your Thanksgiving table decides they are going to try to push your buttons, right? Maybe your father-in-law. You can just say, some people like it.
Oh.
Some people love them. And just leave it at that. Some people love them.
Now, Sharon, we got to go. Well, we'll talk to you more on the other side of the break. Can I tell you, though, I already love you, but you've already damaged me forever because my father-in-law is going to clip out the part where you say, know when to shut your mouth, Jason. And he's going to play that now at every family gathering.
Get a button that presses it, like
right.
an easy button. Oh, I just shut your mouth, Jason. Mm-hmm.
Right? More with Sharon when we come back. Back in a moment. So glad we're having this civil conversation. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're doing it. Welcome back. Fallon's joining us now because Fallon loves her. We're chatting with America's government teacher, Sharon McMahon. And Sharon, let me talk about the book. I mentioned at the very beginning, The Small and Mighty. We want to cover so much. So can you give us just a nugget? Give me one of your favorite small and mighty heroes that our viewers may not know about.
One of the people in the book that I love the most is a woman named Septima Clark, who ultimately changes the course of United States history just by continuing to do the next needed thing. And I'll let you read the book to see all of the details. But when she gets to be an old woman, and they ask her what she has learned, and this is a woman who grows up in the segregated South and has experienced a lot of racism in her life. At the end of her life, they ask her what she's learned, and she says, I have learned that I can work with my enemies because they might have a change of heart at any moment. And in fact, that is what allows her to change the course of history. The fact that she is willing to work with her enemies, because otherwise, how will her enemies ever change?
Absolutely. I think about Tip O'Neill, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich. That's, anyway. Fallon?
Well, and I think your book, Sharon, by the way, I do love you. You've been on like my radio morning show before, so I love you very much. But I think that's kind of the point of the book. I had a coworker the other day mention not voting. They had never voted before, and they're like, probably won't because it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people have that outlook like, I'm one person, I'm not going to make a difference. And I would love for you to speak on that because I think that that's what your book is specifically about.
Yeah, I mean, this book embodies what it means to make a difference as a single individual without wealth, without power, without access to, the levers of government. These are just ordinary people who did something extraordinary with their lives. And yes, government is one way you can make a difference. But there are other ways that you could make a difference too. And I love telling those kinds of stories. But I will say that I have heard from so many people this election cycle who have decided to vote for the very first time. I am talking 87-year-old women.
Yeah.
Yes. 90-year-old women who are like, listen, it's never mattered more. Especially Minnesota makes it very easy to register day of. You just need to bring your ID or some kind of address verification. They have decided as seniors, I'm going to start doing my part. And the last thing I'll say very quickly is that so many issues that directly affect your life are not decided by the president. They are decided on the state and local level. And those things are very much on the ballot too.
We have about a minute left. Let me just brag on you for a little while. You're on a tour. You have a legion of fans called Governerds, which I love. And you have over 1 million followers. Sharon says so. You're just known for your direct, nonpartisan, and that's why Sharon's here. When you're wondering why Sharon's on our show, we don't normally do this. It's because of that. Because you're non. What does that viral fame feel like for you, Sharon? You're like a viral superstar.
It is weird. I will tell you, I'm in San Francisco right now. I'm in a hotel room in San Francisco. I have a show here tonight. It is really weird to drive by a venue and to see your name in lights. I live on a dirt road, okay? I live on a dirt road in the woods in northern Minnesota. I can't see my neighbors from my house. It is weird to see, Sharon McMahon on the side.
Well, I think it's worthy. I think you're doing
amazing.
I think you're doing tremendous work, because we always talk about civility on this show via pop culture, and I think we need more of it, more actual conversation. So thank you for leading that. Please come back and see us, Sharon.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Pick up a copy of her new book, The Small and the Mighty. There it is, wherever you get your books, and follow her on Instagram. Like I said, the handle, Sharon Says So. Back after this. That was great. Civility.